Ari Goldkind, huge case. It has implications on every single police department in North America, essentially. It doesn't just represent Toronto. Why don't you tell us, give us a little history of the case, and then I want to ask you kind of all about it.
18-year-old boy had taken some ecstasy and was in sort of a depressed, emotionally disturbed state on a Toronto streetcar. Down by Dundas, which is sort of midtown to downtown Toronto.
Literally 30 seconds from my house.
Correct. I left that part out, though.
Okay. Well, they're not going to find my house.
I left that part out, though.
Yeah, they might be able to. Actually.
So he's on the streetcar. He takes out a knife. He points it at certain people in the back, and he exposes his penis. Everybody runs off the streetcar immediately. This is an important point. Everybody runs off the streetcar. He is on the streetcar by himself. The only other person who remains on the streetcar is the TTC driver. And you have to remember that TTC drivers along that route on Dundas or Queen in Toronto deal with a lot of mentally ill or emotionally disturbed people on that route because there is a very big mental hospital along that route. The TTC driver, even while the boy is holding the knife, says, "Can I help you? Is there anything I can do for you?" The police get called. They show up in about a minute to a minute and a half. All sorts of cars with the lights blazing and the sirens going. The TTC driver sees all the cops come out with their guns drawn. He gets off the streetcar. The boy's name is Sami Yatim. One officer named Forcillo, so I'll refer to him as Forcillo for people who don't know this case from this moment. Forcillo yells at Sami Yatim, who is on the streetcar, again, on the streetcar by himself, "Drop the blanking knife."
What's blanking?
A swear word.
What is it? What's
you
swear
say
word?
it. I don't swear when I'm on here.
What swear word
effing.
is it? Effing?
Drop the effing. You say
word?
it. I'm not saying it.
Can you swear in court? Like if you're going to quote...
No, but you can quote somebody.
And then drop an F-bomb?
Yes. And
so quote him.
And in fact,
quote the cop here.
Drop the fucking knife.
Thank you.
Actually, that's right, because that's actually part of the court transcript. Yeah. So James Forcillo says, no, you were right. You were right. I'm just, you know me. I'm not going to... There's certain places I won't go. He says, "Drop the fucking knife."
Nice, twice.
And just to back off, just to back up a second so people understand, this is all happening within an instant. There are no other words being exchanged. Sami Yatim immediately says back to the cop, "You're a fucking pussy." Within a nanosecond of those words coming out of Sami Yatim's mouth, and I mean a nanosecond. Okay, you can, and it's a horrible YouTube video. You don't need to put it up now, but I know that you like to type. It's a horrible YouTube video. You see this all happening on audio. It's synced, video, surveillance camera, TTC camera. 3 shots hit Sami Yatim. The officer fires 3 times. All 3 bullets hit him. It severs his spine. He hits the ground immediately. He's paralyzed and he's dying. Okay? And he dies from these 3 shots. You would think, anybody listening to this, that would be the end of it. You would just think.
Guy's down, not moving.
Guy's
clearly
not moving.
Extremely injured.
Extremely injured. It's all on video. Everybody can see it. And by the way, the streetcar, remember, the empty streetcar, is surrounded now by 6 to 10 cops.
Yes,
okay?
And there's no knife in his hand, and the guy can't move, and he's bleeding to death.
So you'd think the story ends there, and that's bad enough. But no. Officer Forcillo waits 5 seconds, and I do mean that for people hearing me, 5.5 seconds.
And count that. That's a long time for someone not to then get up, stand up, and take a move on you, after he's just been shot. Count that out loud right now. 1.
Right, just for people to know.
I want to count this out. Think how long 5 seconds actually is in a situation like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And just for people to know, the bullets that are in the cop's gun are different. They're hollow point bullets, and they destroy you when they go in your body. They're literally destroyers. Anyway, those 5 seconds that you counted, Todd, they pass. You would think Officer Forcillo or his colleagues go up to Sami Yatim on the streetcar floor and check for a pulse, or call an ambulance, or go up and see if he's dead. What does Officer Forcillo do? He shoots 6 more times into the torso and legs and shoes of the young boy dying on the streetcar while he's paralyzed. So, what you would think, that's the end of it. But no. After those 6 shots go out, what do the cops do? The cops then go on the streetcar, and one cop, who's, I won't go there until we get into it,
Can you give him a line?
Sami Yatim. And everybody knows what a taser is.
They tasered him after?
After those 6 shots. They don't go up and check for a pulse. They don't go up and see what they've done. They taser him. That's the background to what happened on the streetcar. So, yesterday, if you want me to continue, the trial of James Forcillo.
No, your time is done here, Ari Goldkind.
Okay,
actually.
have a good day.
Okay.
I'm gonna drink this water, and I'll disinfect the mic that I'm so close to.
No, go ahead, of course, please. This is, Ari Goldkind's an expert. He's a criminal defense lawyer, and he's really our correspondent every Tuesdays at 5 p.m. from anything political or legal. And in this case, and this is what he did yesterday on every single TV station on the planet, is he gave sort of his expertise on what happened at the breakdown when the ruling came out.
Right. So let's talk about what happened, which has got everybody sort of a Twitter. So
Twitter.
I know. I had to say that for you, given my love of that device.
You have mentioned twatter on our program before.
Yeah, well.
Speaking of swearing.
That's putting it nice.
Okay.
Nicely. So, James Forcillo is charged with second-degree murder. Everybody, I think, knows what first-degree murder is when you plan and deliberate something.
Mm-hmm. It's like, I'm going to kill that person. And then you go and kill that person.
That's right. Or hire a hitman to kill your loving,
I'm going to buy a gun.
spouse.
I'm going to get him at 6 o'clock just before they get home, and bam!
Correct. So second-degree murder is when you don't have a plan or a deliberation to do something, but in the heat of a moment,
you react.
I would say more of an action, but there isn't a plan that's been hatched for a long time.
Yeah, it's not like a vengeful kind of...
James Forcillo is charged with second-degree murder for the killing of Sammy Yatim. The case starts out with all 9 shots. Remember, I split this up for people to understand into 3 shots and then 6 shots. Originally, all 9 shots were being decided together. The Crown Attorney or prosecutor, if you're listening to this in the States, thought that a jury might have a lot of difficulty convicting a police officer, as we all know throughout North America, with murder. So what did they do? They split the case up, which is the first 3 shots, the shots that actually killed him when the cop got to the streetcar. They charged him with second-degree murder for that. However, because they thought, boy, we don't really get a lot of success in cops going down for murder. Juries just give them a pass or the benefit of the doubt. We can talk about Chicago, Ferguson. We can go on and on, Todd.
Sure.
The Crown then charged him with attempted murder. And I'll explain that in a second, for the final 6 shots that went into an already dead or dying boy.
2 separate charges, second-degree murder and attempted murder, splitting up that time frame with those 5 seconds being the pause. And for me now as a layman, and to be honest, me now as a juror, when that comes in, before even any of the facts, I'm thinking to myself, this almost gives you an option. It's like a plea within the case already. It's like, you might not want to convict him on this level, but let's see what there is to maybe convict him on the lesser level.
You're correct. So the Crown split that up, and the theory is, and obviously the Crown's not going to give an interview about this, that they split it up for the reasons that I've just mentioned. So remember, the jury trial happens. It takes 3 months. 3 months in a courtroom in Toronto. Big media story. Officer Forcillo.
What goes on with the jurors in those 3 months? Are they
sequestered?
Like sequestered?
No. So what happens is for the first 3 months of I shouldn't say until the lawyers give closing arguments. I think everybody knows what that means. I know making a murderer is at the top of people's food chain right now. I
always think of A Few Good Men, where he's like, "You can't hang."
No, but it's still. But that's one of the greatest movies ever.
Yeah, you can't. It's a pretty good impression, isn't it, Jay? You can't handle it.
You could use a bit of work.
I thought that was all right. Okay. Thanks.
So
let's hear yours.
Once the judge tells the jury,
right, Ari, let's hear Jay's.
Jay,
you can't handle the truth.
Roddy, let's hear yours. Roddy,
can't handle that truth.
Roddy's the best one.
That's pretty good, bro. Anyway.
I see Oscar nominations not in your future. So, in any event, the judge tells the jury, because the jurors are obviously lay people like all of us. Obviously, I can't be on a jury because I'm a lawyer.
I didn't know that.
No, I know. It's very actually interesting because I would have convicted him in about 12 seconds, but there you go. Well, because it's on video. It's amazing.
I was going to ask you your opinion last. We're breaking the order.
Okay, you're in charge. You're in charge, Todd Shapiro. It is your show.
You can't handle me.
So, long story short, the jurors go to a hotel. They're sequestered.
Yes. Okay.
Once the judge gives them their instructions, and what does that mean in this day and age?
Sequestered. I know, because can you get on Facebook?
But it's no. So it's really actually kind of interesting.
See, that was my whole point. See, I'm smart, right?
It's
I was
really
leading into something.
Could you imagine? They're in a conference room at the courthouse from 10 to 6 in a room, and then they take a break to have pizza. Then
Look at you working in a sponsor, bro.
Always,
Damn it.
Always.
Damn it.
From 6 o'clock on, now imagine
You wash it
this.
down with a carnivore wine, too?
Not
Right
me,
after.
but others.
Yeah, no, not you.
Yeah, not me.
The
I'm a
sequestered-
teetotaler. From 6 o'clock on, imagine this. They go to a hotel where they are separated.
Yeah.
There is no internet, no phone, no newspaper.
Wow.
No nothing.
It was like going to my booby's house and like before she died.
That's a very fair way of putting it.
It was like there's nothing to do there.
They
but
should
eat
let
her.
the juries visit the boobies if they could, if
No,
possible.
but Boobies would have had cable, right?
Ah,
The
she
old
had
box that
nothing.
we pressed the button.
She had nothing. She read Reader's Digest. That's all she read.
Reader's Digest. That's a doctor's office.
Yeah,
That's right.
that's what she had.
So that's what it is. So they took 6 days, 35 hours to deliberate, and the final answer is they convicted him of attempted murder. And a lot of people are asking, how can you be convicted of attempted murder
Yes.
when you're acquitted or found not guilty of second-degree murder? So how does that make any sense? A lot of people have asked. In law, you can attempt to do something that's impossible. So the first 3 shots, which did kill him, the jury said he's acting in the course of his duty. This is part of his job. He acted lawfully or in self-defense, or he was justified.
So the guy has a knife. They're saying he's justified for pulling out his gun.
Correct.
And putting 3 deadly shots into this kid who's on ecstasy, who seemed like, to be honest, like so unthreatening to me. Like, he was
Correct.
like,
Well,
look at
it's
this
on
guy.
video. It's not
He's
even
like-
up to me.
he's
It's
like,
on video.
what a cute guy. You know, like, come on, like, put your knife away, pal. But boom, boom, boom. Dead. It's tragic. I mean, that part of it's so sad. So, okay, so they're like, okay, you know what? He's justified, though, in doing that. We are not going to charge him with second degree.
No, not going to convict him.
Convict
of
him.
that.
Sorry,
Right.
there was already charged. Convict him of second degree murder.
Right. And now, just so people understand, they also didn't have to just convict him of second-degree murder. They could have said, look, he didn't intend to murder him, but he was reckless or impulsive or careless, to use certain words, about the consequences. They could have convicted him of something called manslaughter.
Yes.
Which means you don't have the intention to be a murderer, but you are culpable or guilty for the consequences of your action, even though you don't intend to murder. So if I punch you in the face right now, but, the punch leads you to fall on the ground and crack your skull, you and I didn't intend to kill you, but it's a manslaughter because through the chain of events that I started.
Okay, as a juror, though, can you come back with
Yes.
manslaughter even though you're only charged in second-degree murder?
No, manslaughter is the lesser charge you come back with.
Oh, it is.
If you don't think the person is a murderer, but you think they have certainly done wrong and led to the chain of events that led to the death.
Okay, so they just said no. They threw that one out. They're like he didn't. He as in terms of second degree murder or manslaughter. He's fine on that charge.
And because you talked about your booby, I'll use this phrase. They said that the first 3 shots were kosher.
Okay,
and I can't fathom that in my mind as somebody who deals
wait
with this
for
in
your
the courtroom.
opinion. We're going to wait for you. Let's just do the facts.
Okay, no, fine.
Okay.
And then they got to attempted murder, and the very short thing that I said to you before, where people were querying, how can you get attempt murder when you're not guilty of the murder, is because the jury essentially said, in a very short nutshell, we can get into this, he was justified to do what we just talked about. But once those 5 seconds passed and the boy was shot dead, on the ground, paralyzed, essentially not moving, no matter whether he was a cop or not, and this is important, whether he was a cop or not, they couldn't come up with any legal justification to excuse those 6 shots. So that's what they convicted him of.
It's like, hey, dude, okay, you reacted. You saw a guy wielding a knife. You thought he was going to come at you, so you shot him. You did your job. But, dude, 5 seconds went by. He didn't get up. And then you pound 6 more shots into this kid who's already suffering.
And
5 hit him. And that now is considered, he got charged for.
And the jury came back and said he attempted to kill him, and it's not relevant that he didn't know that he was dead for the first 3.
But if he's already dead, how can you convict someone for killing someone?
I'll tell you, because you can get convicted in law for attempting to do the impossible. I'll give a much easier example if anybody's confused. Let's say Sami Yatim, who I said a moment ago, he was on ecstasy. Let's say he was holding the knife, and then he had a heart attack, or other things that happen if you take drugs, and he fell and hit his head on the metal of the streetcar and literally died. And Officer Forcillo thought, well, something is still happening, and he pumped the 5 into him. Well, he didn't kill him. The boy is already dead, but you can, by trying to shoot him those 6 times, by trying to get him or finish him off, let's use that term.
Kill the dead guy.
That's right. And in law, you can attempt to do something that's impossible so long as the thing that you're doing that's impossible is illegal.
Wow. See, that's the legal part of it that makes a lot of sense to me now. So let me give you another scenario, and I'm sure this has happened somewhere, and it's a terrible thought, but it's one that went through my head. Sometimes you hear of these gang killings, right, where dudes go and they pick on one dude and a bunch of them kill him. Has there ever been other cases like this, say, where, two guys, they're kicking them, but they kill a guy, but then like 4 others come and just keep kicking him after he's dead and hoping to hurt him more? Could they be charged in a scenario like that?
If their intention, and this is important, if their intention is to kill him, and a jury or a judge, because you don't have to have a jury, you can have a judge. If a judge intends that they, we can use the phrase they wanted to put the boots to him. Sometimes, like in mafia movies, you put the boots to the guy. You're certainly not intending to kill him. So you're not going to go down for attempt murder. The jury came back and said when he put those 5 shots into him, this wasn't a warning shot across the bow. This wasn't...
He was trying to kill him
and
now.
Remember, in police training, which is a huge issue, and a lot of people, including your listeners, might probably be thinking in your mind, why do they have to shoot to kill? A lot of times...
Jay has a defense for that.
And when and just to make the point, a lot of times when you watch cop shows or any show, you'll see somebody sort of shoot the tires.
Stormtroopers sure weren't trained well.
We could talk about Star Wars. I love Star Wars.
Stormtroopers don't know to they're not trained to shoot to kill.
But you'll see somebody shoot the tires of a truck because they want to get it off the road. They won't shoot the driver.
Yeah.
Cops are trained to shoot to kill, no matter what. So the jury came back and said, this wasn't shoot to miss. This wasn't a warning sign. This wasn't. This was to kill him. But that being said, the first 3 shots, the jury said, as I said, A-OK.
Okay, so now we've clarified it. Before I continue, Jay, do you have any comments?
Yeah, and Ari, I hope you understand that. I disagree with you.
With me, I haven't said anything yet.
With this, well, a little bit of what you're saying. I disagree with you, but I respect you greatly as a
before you kind of the opinion on the conviction, more like your thoughts on the case and understanding the legalities of being able to kind of kill someone who's already dead.
Well, okay, that to me is absurd. I think if the police officer, I think he's guilty of being a shitty shot. I think if he showed up that day and was able to kill Sammy with 1 shot straight to the head, if he did that, there would be no case. He'd be a hero cop. I think the fact that he was probably very scared, nervous, threw extra shots to Sammy team is why he's convicted. It's absurd to me that you could get exonerated for killing a man, but then found guilty for the attempt to kill the man. And
it seemed to the layman and not understanding the law. Now you've explained to us, Ari Goldkind. It does seem in a weird way very hypocritical.
But let's take the law out of it. We're in studio right now.
Yeah.
You are holding you and I are talking about the Sammy Yatim case.
Yep.
You're holding a flick knife to demonstrate what Sammy Yatim was doing. We're filming this for a podcast. All of a sudden, you get hit by a ray of lightning and hit the ground. The lightning kills you. I call 911. The cops come rushing in. They see a knife in your hand. You're dead. The cops come rushing in. They think that knife, you're getting up a little bit, or they see in a spasm of you dying. As you die, your body spasms. You could have excrement. It's not pretty. That knife is in your hand. So the cop, who's a hot-headed testosterone cop, sees Todd Shapiro, 6'1" or 6'2", holding a knife. Rather than coming up and going, holy shit, let's put him on a gurney, that cop pumps 6 bullets into you. So I don't want to make this complicated.
Yeah, but didn't you just sort of defend that action, thinking of not being charged for the second-degree murder?
No. You're talking about how to do the impossible.
I get how to do the impossible. But the way you just phrased it is the cops saw a spasm and then they pumped bullets in my. They would think that maybe I was coming at him again. So,
but it has to be reasonable. So
it has to be reasonable. So in this one, the kid was clearly not moving.
Right, and just to.
And by the way, my heart goes out to his family. I know we're kind of talking about this, and within it, we're making some jokes. I think first and foremost, I just want to put it out there to his family and stuff. God, they lost a son. So I just.
Yeah, and by the way, I don't see that any of us were making jokes. So I didn't sense that because I would stop you.
I was making a few.
I would stop you.
Not at the death. I was just trying to lighten up this serious topic.
I would stop you.
And I just want to put I just want to put it out there.
Then again, it's your show. I wouldn't stop. Well, I would still stop you.
Anyway, come on. Okay, our hearts go out to the family. And really, that's just so tragic and beyond any of it that I had to put out there. Yeah. So what an interesting thing. So what I want to have some clarity from you, Ari, is the differences between first-degree murder, second-degree murder, and then attempted murder.
In terms of punishment?
In terms of punishment.
Sure. So very, very easy. If you go down or get convicted, now I'm thinking lewd and lasciviously. If you get convicted of first-degree murder, you're getting life in prison.
Okay.
Now, what does that mean? Because in the States, life in prison means, you can get 372 years.
Yeah, they add them up.
And you're never getting out. Okay? Here, what does it mean? You're in jail for life. The first time you can apply for parole is after 25 real years. Now, this is going to matter when we get to this case. You can only apply for parole after 25 years. You are not likely to get parole. Okay, so that's important. Sorry, I lost my voice.
Lots of media talking. It's okay.
So, now, second-degree murder, which
we
plays
only do
into
this
this
for 2 hours
case.
a day.
So, no comment. Okay. Second-degree murder, which was in play in this case, life in prison, same as first-degree murder, but you can apply for parole after 10 years. Doesn't necessarily mean you'll get it, but it's a lot stronger of a chance that there's a possibility. Now, just so people understand, very few, if any, people are getting out on the 10-year.
That's first degree and second degree.
First degree is 25. You have to wait.
Second degree is
10.
Second
you have to wait 10.
So you get to 25 years, or you get life. You both get life, but it's when you can apply to get out.
Correct. And if you're so I think people understand that. Now let's get to what this.
Well,
case,
I still don't like that they say life. Like life should mean life. Like if you get, you know what I mean, Jay? Like if they say like they should change that. No, but they should say kinda most of your life,
quarter your life.
Yeah, quarter. If you're 20, and then you'll probably be out by 55. That's not fair. Life. They should change that.
The way we deal with it here is there's something called the National Parole Board.
Yeah,
and if you're a Paul Bernardo, if you're a Ted Bundy, if you're a Clifford Olson, if you're
worst, heinous, most
you're
disgusting.
not getting out, period. But
that's what they should call it.
But
you're not getting out, period.
Yeah,
that's
what they should call it.
But there is actually a section of the criminal code that I specialize in called dangerous offenders.
Yes,
and that's for other notorious clients I have. That really is what that means.
Okay,
but
they should call it that.
Well, lawyers try and make it more complicated so only lawyers can deal with it. So that it's
so they can bill you and take dockets and get $500 an hour.
Now, let's move to what's at play here.
Okay.
Attempted murder. So attempted murder has no theoretical minimum unless you use a firearm in the commission of the attempted murder. And here, as we've just been talking about, Officer Forcillo used his police-issued firearm, and the minimum that he is now facing is 5 years in jail.
Is that the same for a regular civilian who would use a firearm?
Correct. And now, because you just hit on the 64,000 question of where we're going, the defense team is bringing a constitutional challenge to that section of the criminal code because they are saying, and I'm putting this in a nutshell layperson, it's ridiculous that a Toronto police officer who's licensed to hold a firearm is going to face the same minimum as somebody, for example, who shoots somebody else in a drug deal. That argument will be put before the court in May.
Jay?
I expect it to lose, but there you go.
It's justifiable. I think he's got a point there as far as, if I had to obtain a firearm to kill someone, well, then the minimum exists because I should be penalized on top of that for having the firearm, going to the extent, breaking several laws to obtain the firearm. So I think his defense has a good point there.
Which is like, how can you see? He's charged with attempted murder now, but listen, with the firearm, but the 5-year mandatory sentence should not exist in this case.
And so Jay has a point, which is what his defense team will be making, which says there's just something that doesn't smell right about that. But here's the flip side to that, as quickly as Jay, you just said the other side, which is what the jury came back and said. And this is really, it's not legalese. So let's take the legalese out of it. Is James Forcillo was a cop acting properly in the course of his duty with his training all the way up to the nanosecond before he fired the last six shots. And when he fired the last 6 shots, he was no longer an officer taking an oath, wearing the uniform, swearing his duty to the people of Toronto or anywhere else this happens. It makes no difference that it's Toronto. Once he fired those 6 shots, there was no more cloak or wearing the coat that he's a police officer. The question then would become...
He was acting unprofessionally.
Unlawfully, unreasonably, unprofessionally, not as a police officer. The question then would become, why is he then going to receive some mercy on a minimum that you or I, acting no differently than him, would receive. That's the argument.
This case is I mean, from a legal perspective for you, and for me, just listening to it, I find it fascinating. I mean, obviously, truly sad, but to understand the entire process behind it, it is fascinating. Now, with back to the 5 years, say they try and rule it unconstitutional as defense, and they're basically like, hey, dude, fuck you. You're serving 5 years. Does that mean he's in jail for 5 years?
No, and that's why, remember, I said, and it's good that you reminded me, remember I said about 4 minutes ago, these minimums for parole will be important. Because if he went down for murder, he is not seeing the light of day, and I emphasize this, for at least 10 years. On an attempt murder, there is no parole prevention when you have that minimum. There is... so
you can apply every year?
Okay. Because you have to do some part of it, but the minimum sentence you're getting is by statute written down 5 years. Should he behave well, he's not going to be a huge risk. He can apply for parole at an earlier time than those 5 years.
After how many years do you figure?
I'd say realistically, given the nature of this 3.
Okay, and you say he's not going to be a risk. Listen, we just saw a guy who obviously acted, who's been proven guilty by acting unlawfully, as you said.
Right.
But is he not going to be a risk? Because I would imagine that police officers have a different sort of treatment within the prison cells, or will he be isolated?
Do you mean a risk in jail or a risk out of jail?
I'm saying in jail.
No, so he will be isolated.
He will
be
because
kept in
criminals want to get
protective
the
custody.
officers, right?
Correct, period.
Like I've seen that in any
Correct,
movie.
period. You're correct.
They would want to...
No spin, correct. He will not be in what's called general population.
So will he have like a home?
What do you mean?
Like will he have his own home? Will he have a kitchen?
He'll have his own... No.
How does he eat? How does he...
It depends on where they put him. Given that he would be in protective custody, he would probably have his meals brought to his cell, and he would probably get an hour or two. Now, this isn't a high-security prison. There's no way in my mind he would go there. He would have what's called yard time. He would have privileges. He would not be viewed as a serious security risk, nor should he be. As much as I think the verdict is, we can talk about it, but, it cannot be said that in prison, he would be like the leader in an episode of Oz.
Yeah, of course not. No, but I meant more of a risk that he's going to have to defend himself, and then something else could happen.
And that's why he will be kept in protective custody, period.
Okay, so listen, why don't we take a short break? Man, there's so much to talk about, and I still want to talk about other stuff, but I do want to get Ari Goldkind's opinion on the ruling. And do you think it was too harsh? Do you think it was too soft?
Happy to talk about it.
And then I want Jay Brody to give his opinion, too, because that's what I really wanted to get to. So, Ari Goldkind, pretty serious topic, eh?
Yeah, but, as we've talked about on previous shows, making a murderer the jinx, I really think that real life is always more interesting, and the kinds of cases that we do are more interesting than fiction.
Yeah, and that's fair, too. And it's something I think you can't ignore. This really is taking the nation by storm, a ruling, because... people are, and I've gone on our Facebook page alone where we got over like 30 comments, basically saying, wow, we're surprised that they charged a police officer in a meeting.
Charged or convicted?
Convicted. I always mistake
No, but a lot of people didn't think he should have been charged. So that point is also
It's
valid.
always convicted.
Right.
I'm sorry. They're surprised that he was convicted in this because... much like some of those examples you gave earlier in the program in the United States, which causes these riots and causes protests and stuff, Canada, this jury system stepped up and said, hey, dude, you can't get, just because you wear this badge doesn't mean you can go away reckless, shooting around recklessly.
And there is some context, so people listening to that should also know that 4 officers in the past have been charged in Toronto with murder. All won their cases. All charges dropped or they walk out. 11 in Ontario. Murder charges have never stuck to a policeman.
This is the first one?
Ontario. First one. And, and remember, it's not really murder because, in my view, the defense won. So I just want to be clear to say that as much as people understand that Forcillo has been convicted of attempted murder, his defense lawyers have done a heck of a job, and in my view, they won.
How much jail time do you think he's going to get, Ari? You have some experience in the courts, right?
Sure.
What do you think?
So if the minimum applies, as we talked about in the first segment, and they don't succeed in getting that tossed, he's probably looking at not much more than the minimum. However, the judge, who's a very, very able and fair judge, might tack on a year or two for the fact that this attempted murder took place while he was a police officer, and the reason that would be is because he had a position of trust and power over the rest of us. So it sort of has to reflect something a little bit more than, a minimum in sort of a drug deal gone bad with people who are really not our finest citizens. So I would expect there to be a little bit of a tack on to that.
Okay. What is your opinion on it?
The case?
Yes, on the ruling.
Well, there is a lot of consensus where people say the jury is always right. Okay? That seems to be what all lawyers say. There's articles all over saying that. I don't agree with that for a second. This is a case that depends on how a case is lawyered. He had an unbelievably compelling team of lawyers. His lawyers are very much like bulls in a china shop. I don't think...
Who are these lawyers?
His name is Peter Brody. He's a wonderful...
Oh, I know. Okay.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
And he does all
Brody.
police work.
It was
Peter Brody.
Yeah, he did it. I didn't realize Brody was.
I went to law school with him. Very bright guy, surrounded by very bright people.
Sure.
But if anybody thinks that what
Michael McCormick was part.
Mike McCormick, I was on CTV with him this morning.
Okay. Yeah, I like Mike too. I have a lot of respect for Mike.
We talked about you, by the way.
Oh, did you?
Not
Okay.
this morning, but we've talked about you.
Okay.
Thinks highly of you for what
Okay,
that's worth.
as long as I wasn't
No,
being investigated.
I didn't want to leave you hanging until 6 o'clock when we're off air. I am thinking of you at all times.
Yeah.
In any event, you have a jury that people think that the process is pretty pure. I'll just give you two examples of things that the jury weren't told. One, that James Forcillo was on a watch list by the police for pulling his gun too often in the 3 years before this incident. Jury's not told that.
How do you know this?
It's now public. It's released.
Okay.
And the
how
reason,
could the jury not be told this?
So if you want to talk about, we'll go there. And the second thing that they weren't told, if you want to talk about both of these, because they're both really interesting, and then I'll tell you the takeaway of this case of why it's so important, leaving aside James Forcillo. The jury was also not told that 6 months prior to this happening, Sammy Yatim Googled how to kill yourself without feeling pain. He also was despondent because of some trouble he had with his father. He was just about to become somewhat homeless, didn't have anywhere to stay. So the jury, and there's a phenomenon, particularly for your U.S. listeners would know, is called suicide by cop, which is you don't want to jump off a bridge. You don't want to shoot yourself because obviously
you set up a poor
you
cop.
set up a... Well, yes, that's actually quite right. And the jury wanted them to hear the potential of this theory, which is why would Sammy Yatim hold a knife or bring a knife to a gunfight when he knew that what he was doing, holding his penis in his hand, having a knife, would lead to a massive armed response. The jury was not allowed to hear that. So if you want me to explain why both of those things weren't given to the jury...
I'm going to ask Jay, do you want him to explain why? Or are you bored?
No, the suicide by cop...
Well, if you're bored, let's talk about Trump and Palin.
No, this is
I have
too
no interest
interesting.
in boring anybody.
We talk Trump every... No, because I could listen to this all day long.
Okay.
That's why I'm asking Jay, are you bored?
Well, the suicide by cop is an interesting thing that I haven't heard before, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners haven't either.
So you want me to unpack that for 2 seconds?
No, I know about what's the theory or the act of suicide by cop, but that knowledge would definitely impact. You think it would impact the trial?
No, and so the reason is
I would have thought it would allow the cop some empathy and maybe get off for that second-degree murder charge.
Remember what the jury has to figure out, which is what's going on in Forcillo's head. So what matters is why Forcillo did what he did.
That's interesting.
James Forcillo did not receive a text message, a tweet, a Facebook, a Snapchat as he got to the scene going 6 months prior to this. Sammy Yatim Googled something. And by the way, if anybody Googled what half of us Google, all of us are liable to be shot or embarrassed. And the reason I set up with that, because I'm not making a joke, because there's nothing funny about this. I thought that the fact that the defense wanted to introduce that was odious and really outrageous, and I thought it would be a loser for them, and here's why. A police officer is sworn to serve and protect all of us, the sane of us the mentally competent of us, but also those of us that are going through crisis, those of us that are emotionally disturbed, those of us who may be trying to commit suicide by cop. And let's say Sammy Yatim was trying to commit suicide by cop. The last thing a police officer should do is indulge that wish. That's when a police officer sworn to an oath says, you know what? I see this boy's in distress. I see what this boy is looking to do.
So, and I'm only expediting this because we don't have a ton of time.
Yeah.
So, why didn't they introduce the evidence that Forcillo had pulled out his gun before?
Prejudicial. They thought it would lead to it's called propensity in law, which means if you've and I don't agree with this, by the way, and I'm a defense
lawyer.
lawyer.
Like for instance, if I'm just a regular dude and I go and I beat up 5 people, my whole life I've been beating up people, and then AJ, imagine me trying to beat up someone though. That's also funny in itself. And then the 6th time I go and beat this, I just beat him down and I end up killing the guy.
And the word that I just used,
and aren't they going to bring in that I've been beating up people for years
with a jury? And this is something I, as a defense lawyer, still think is problematic. Everybody else disagrees with me, but if you've raped somebody 5 times. And then
that's strong. I didn't want. Let's go with my example.
No. Because this happens more than your example.
Okay.
So
but I hate that word.
Sexually assault.
I hate that too. I don't
come up with another one then.
Beating people
kidnap.
down.
How's kidnap? How's kidnap? You've kidnapped somebody 5 times.
Yeah.
You're a kidnapper for ransom.
Yeah.
And then you're charged with the 6th one. Okay. A jury is not going to hear that you're a kidnapper because the word that's used in court is propensity. So it says, a judge will say to the lawyers, I don't want the jury to decide based on this person's character or their past. We need to have the facts to prove of this case. Now, all legal scholars
so you can't
say
bring
that's
any
right.
of that up.
But to me, if somebody's kidnapped 5 times
you would
and
think
now charged with the 6th,
sure.
But the idea is
I had no idea this was
but
a part
the
of the
idea
law.
is to give fairness to the other side
I had no
of this,
idea.
which is maybe somebody is setting them up by accusing them of something, and as soon as the jury hears
There's always another
that
side.
they've done it 5 times, because I'm all about being fair to both sides, as soon as they've heard that they've done it 5 times, the jury's not going to care what the facts are for the
Thank
6th.
God it doesn't work that way in dating, because I always find that if you're a guy, and this is a positive thing, it has nothing to do with criminal acts, but if you're a guy who dates really beautiful women or something, other beautiful women like you. I'm glad they know that. They're like, oh my God.
Well, that's a Seinfeld episode.
Yeah, it's like, wow.
That is a Seinfeld episode.
I didn't even know that, but it's true. It's like, wow, how do they date so many beautiful women? They must have something. And it always helps. You know what I mean, Jay?
Propensity to date attractive women will not be brought before the courts today, Todd.
Well, then I would have never married a beautiful wife.
Well, I was going to compliment you there, but I'll stay out of that.
Okay, stay out of it. What were you going to say?
That you have a propensity for that in your past, and it's only a compliment.
That's what I'm saying. But I'm glad that we can talk.
Right.
We can't bring it up today. Ari?
Yeah,
remember?
you're not allowed bringing it up. That's
allowed.
my whole point. I'm glad we're
Todd
allowed
lucked
to.
out. It was a freakish force of nature that he ended up with his wife.
Exactly.
Right. Before it was Lord of the Rings.
So okay, we're getting everywhere now. Just you're in 2 minutes, Ari.
Yeah.
And I'm all pro cop, man. I gave recently a speech at friends of mine who were police officers, and it was at a robbery conference, and all I did was went up there and said, you know what, we're too hard on you as the media.
Yeah.
We're way too hard on you because I don't live and breathe what you do every day with the paranoia that you must go through of protecting society. We probably got a call here on the show, so it's okay. Just ignore it. For me, I'm always, I try and take the initial part is how does someone do that? How does someone every day walk around with this fear of having to protect people, and I don't know how I would react. So that's why I'm pro cop. I'm not excusing any of the behavior. I don't want to judge them for how they react because I don't know how I would. So how dare I accuse them for being a certain way when I don't know if I would do the same thing? It's kind of mature of me. So what do you think?
It's very mature. Okay, so I want you to take your call. Do you want to take your call?
It's a quick call here on the program.
Okay, take it. I miss Larry King.
Do you?
Of course I do.
There we go.
I'm watching the technical magic happen.
Yeah, it's brutal. I know. Thank you. You're on the air.
Oh, I need headphones.
Hey, Todd, how's it going, my friend?
Good. How are you listening live? Hello?
I hear
Roddy,
nothing. Oh, there we go.
specific to you.
Okay, this is specific to Roddy.
Oh.
Go ahead.
All right. One of your guys' bits made me laugh harder than ever. When Roddy can some magically way appear to speak to someone with the same words somebody else is speaking almost before them, and it makes me laugh so hard. I just want, do you guys plan that out, or is he just like a magical person?
Roddy picks
magical, Roddy?
it's actually miraculous. He knows it's crazy. He could probably even do it with you over the phone. Stop doing this. He's doing it right now. You can tell it's not planned. This is how quick he
Please
is.
don't tell me you're doing that right now.
It's pretty bizarre. Hey, thanks for the call, pal. Thanks for the support. We're going to get back to the serious stuff.
That was an interesting non sequitur. I feel like that call was like on a time delay of 37 minutes before I walked in because I must have missed it.
No.
I'm saying this
listeners
was all
get that's a guy bored who's listening. He's like he just wanted to make a joke. Like
and change the subject.
No, I
Shapiro.
can't. I'm learning. Well, he did. That's why I picked up the call.
Okay.
I always interrupt call interviews for calls. It's smart. It's ADHD generation. Like we like something new right now.
We're all like that.
Yeah. Jay fart or something. We'll lighten it up.
Where were we?
Okay. I just in 2 minutes. I just want what you think should have happened.
Okay. So about the cop thing. So let's take
the thing we've been talking about for 50
about
minutes.
You saying being a cop, you couldn't do this and okay.
Yeah.
So as much as I'm a defense lawyer, I know tons of good cops. And even though I find cops lying all day in some of my trials, I know that a lot of cops never would because they have honor and integrity. I don't think it's fair to say that James Forcillo represents cops full stop. He, to me, acted as a rogue cop. Now, why do I say that? Because you can watch the footage where there were tons of other cops there. Nobody else fired. His partner, who had 20 years seniority, and a female, and I'm going to
female cop holstered a gun. You told me that in the past.
I know, but I'm going to make the point here, which is when testosterone and adrenaline takes over good decision making, you don't get a free pass from me. And when his partner, who's got 20 years seniority, assesses the dangerousness of the situation, which the jury excused him for, and holsters her gun, it tells you something. But let's go to the bigger point, and if this is boring, I don't really care. It has become very unfair to have police officers be the first responders to people who are mentally ill or emotionally disturbed. They should be having the funds. We should have politicians who don't treat mental illness like a joke, like people that we move away from on the subway or on a train or on a plane where they don't look or sound right. So it's an unfortunate position, and I'm trying to not make this boring.
Can we have a specially trained police department?
So here's the point. We need to get to the point where we stop spending billions of dollars on machine guns, rifles, tasers. We have what's called in this city mobile crisis intervention units.
Have more of them.
When somebody calls 911 because their son or daughter is off their meds, their wife or husband is bipolar, that rather than James Forcillo coming up with his gun drawn.
I know what you're saying. It's
and that
fascinating.
to me has been, and I'll say this because
we're lacking
I don't think it's fair to police to make them substitute for what doctors and nurses and other trained first responders should be doing.
Send in the florist. Next time a guy's got a knife and he's got his dick out and he's grabbing, he's sexually assaulting women, bring a fucking florist.
You want to know something funny? I'll tell you something. I know that you said that is both serious and humor.
Yeah.
It is actually demonstrated when you do that.
Of course, you show empathy, you show concern,
empathy, and you will end up having the mentally ill or emotionally disturbed person respond to a command about 90 or 80 or 70% faster than ordering him to drop the effing
because they
thing.
get more defensive.
So I know you said that in a certain way, but it actually does work, and it's not namby-pamby stuff.
I'm impressed by you, Ari, though, that you
if that was boring, I don't care.
I'm glad you brought it up because it showed a side of me that I didn't think you were going to take on this case, and which is, in a bit of a defense of police officers, which is, hey, we're putting them in pretty terrible positions sometimes when they're as trained as they are, and they are still trained to shoot to kill. They're also not trained to deal with the mentally ill all the time.
Which they say they are, but it's still wrong to ask them to do what we're too gutless of a country to say, let's put some money to have some psychologists, nurses 100%. On 24-hour standby, which, by the way, is cheaper, Todd Shapiro, cheaper than cops.
Yeah, okay, that too. I have one last question. Actually, this is Joe, our boss, texted me in a question, and one I wouldn't have thought to ask, which is smart, which is... Hey, first, we should give Ari his own show. He didn't say. He just asked, and it's actually, it's very interesting. What if a second cop was the one who did the shooting after the first cop?
That's a great question. And so
we only have a minute here.
I don't think I need him. I think 30 seconds. That would suggest that James Forcillo was right all the way through, that the cops reasonably, and this is all that matters, reasonably perceived, whether right or wrong, but it was objectively reasonable that they acted the way they did. And remember, the reason that James Forcillo has gone down for this, to use a term that I think all of your listeners would know, is he really acted like a lone wolf. And if other officers started firing, we would be talking about Donald Trump today. We would never have heard the name James Forcillo.
Two officers
so
wouldn't have been charged, and they probably.
I don't think so.
Isn't that great? Well, I mean, not great, but great that you answered
but
that.
I think that's
isn't that great too? Hey, cops, here's the story. If you want to go shoot someone, get all of you to shoot someone. It's like you don't want to encourage that. So anyway, it's terrible. See, but I mean, it's interesting, right? It's that lone wolf mentality.
I thought it was a great question, but it ties into the lone wolf mentality.
The law's fun. Can I go back? How hard would it be for me to go and get my LSATs and shit?
It would take you 3 years. You could do it.
I have a learning disability.
No,
though.
you don't.
No, I have a learning disability.
I know you say that, but you're smarter than anybody else.
I've been diagnosed with a learning disability.
I know.
I can't read, and I'm not even I cannot focus on reading. I can't read. I can't focus on reading. Will they give me a pass to go write my LSATs? And can I take more time to do it? I would Jones under pressure.
As Justin Trudeau would say.
Yeah.
It's 2016. They'd find a way to accommodate your special needs.
They'd probably give me the law degree and then just say, hey, good luck, pal. But, I mean, that's a good way to expedite the process.
The Todd Shapiro Show. Canada Laughs. SiriusXM 168.
Don't forget to subscribe now to our YouTube channel. Subscribe. Subscribe. Now. Hit the button. Do it. Do it. Do it now. Do it. Right there. Do it. Do it now. Subscribe. Quick. Quick, quick, quick. Hit the button.